Okay. My name's Chris Roesel. I'm 63 years old. I'm a student here at GPC. I have a master's in public health, specializing in international health planning from Johns Hopkins. I have a master's in nutrition. I started international work working as a Peace Corps volunteer in Guatemala, and since then I've worked in over 20 countries.
And you've been to Malawi?
I've been to Malawi. I last went to help agencies plan how to overcome the famine in Malawi.
Okay, speaking of the famine, we're talking about world hunger today. Can you give some insight into the world hunger situation into Malawi, how desperate it is?
Well, right now I don't think it's desperate, but the situation in Malawi is like that in Ethiopia, and where famines are cyclic. They occur every few years, and they occur primarily because there's little rainfall, and when there's little rainfall, the crops don't dry, or they don't grow. The situation in Malawi, the president back in 1970 changed Malawi from eating millet to eating corn because he thought corn was a higher status grain. The problem is corn requires a lot of water in the soil, and millet is a very drought resistant crop. So Malawi now grows corn, and with low rainfall many years they can't produce enough to feed themselves.
Okay, so as far as goes, what is your experiences with more permanently world hungry countries?
Well, one that I've been in that continually has cycles of famine is Haiti, which is 90 miles off the coast of the U.S. And when I went to Haiti, I would stop in little rural clinics, and there would be 15 to 30 1-year-old to 8-year-old, 9-year-old children who were just skin and bones, and they'd be there with their mother who was waiting to see the doctor. What they needed was food to eat, not a doctor, but Haiti just doesn't have the land distribution, it doesn't have the appropriate agricultural practices, it doesn't have the rain to produce enough food, and if it's ever cut off or not able to buy world food produce, then it goes into famine. Well, there is a wealth distribution problem, but the biggest problem is the country just, it doesn't have the irrigation systems, it doesn't have the crops, it doesn't have the land, the agricultural practices, it doesn't have the storage silos. 30% of the crop is lost because it's not properly stored. And when all those come together, people end up starving.
So who do you think it affects the most in the country as far as being deathly ill from starvation?
Which country?
Any of the prominently where world hunger is a constant issue.
Well, Ethiopia is the worst case that I know of. If you look at our food aid to Ethiopia, we ship about $500 million of food aid to Ethiopia about every 2 years, because they have a famine in Ethiopia about every 2 years. It's just astonishing. The country doesn't have the infrastructure, the practices to feed itself.
What do you feel were some realistic solutions on this problem?
Well, if rather than just sending food aid, if we also worked with the local farmers to put in simple grain silos that can be built for around $100, If we put in simple irrigation systems that were powered by foot or by hand or windmills, like in the case of the boy in Malawi, if we worked with the population in getting the most drought-resistant crops for their conditions, then I think they'd be able to feed themselves. Instead, what we do is we ship U.S. produce, which is billions of dollars of food aid, but we don't do a couple of $1 billion of agricultural aid to come up with the irrigation and the storage silos to produce more crops and to store the crops. As you know, if you've got irrigation, you can increase your crop production anywhere from doubling it up to producing 12 times more crop on the same amount of land.
So in these countries, would you say maybe the education would be one of the main problems to the world hunger?
People can be educated as can be, but if they don't have the resources, they can't take care of themselves. They need both the knowledge and some resources. We aren't talking about gobs of resources. We're just talking about a few $1 billion of resources to take care of the world's hunger problems. For some reason, maybe to protect U.S. agricultural production, we don't do the building up of the agricultural, the irrigation, the food storage infrastructure.
Okay, and is there anything else you would like to add about your experience?
Well, it's just absolutely horrible to go into an area and come across thousands of people starving, just skin and bones, and you know that within 3 days, a tenth of them are going to be dead, and you just want to do something, but rather than just the immediate solution, we need to do the long-term solutions. But the long-term solutions requires some investment and some working with the people.
Okay, one final thing. As far as an individual level, what do you think is the best route to help?
Well, I think we need to encourage Congress to build agricultural infrastructure in these continually starving countries.
Okay, thank you. That was Chris Roesel.